So this is my rose meadow, and as you can see, it's gone totally berserk. But I thought it was worth showing to you because it's interesting when you plant lots of different things close together. Although it looks very informal and very relaxed, it is actually quite hard work gardening, because the proximity of different plants to each other means they all force each other up, so they all get very tall, fighting for the light. Now obviously these Eremurus are brilliant and I love them, and they're a huge scale, but they're quite fun. As are the thistles, the cotton thistles, those big silver towers with very prickly leaves. On a podium, a Leucanthemum, and they're biennial, so you get a basal rosette of leaves one year and then they send up these massive shoots. I think probably the star players for me at the moment are the Dutch irises, and you can see them, they're more down at the bottom, but they're so inexpensive and I just buy them wholesale, I bang them in, and they really seem to be holding their own, and I love their beautiful blue flowers. But what I have to do now, and I'm going to do it this weekend, is I'm going to go through and I'm just going to weed out some of the thugs. So we've got some beauties. To my left, the allium Globemaster. Love it, really, really nice. And that should stay fairly perennial, God willing. And then next to it, I've got the Verbascum Polar Summer, which I love. And I don't think you can have too many of these. Then just here, I've got the naughtier Melton hybrids. You see, they come in this pinky colour, deeper, purpler, and they come in a light pink as well. And they set seed. So these have just spread massively. Beyond them, you can just see the sort of purplish seed heads of the honesty. That's not all normal honesty. That's my favourite honesty. That's Lunaria Chedglow, which has got the beautiful purple foliage and the lovely purple flowers, and they spread really nicely. But the seed heads, I think, with that lovely colour, look fantastic. But I'm going to weed out some of the thugs. So I've got this campion here, and here it's white and it will seed like mad, so I'm going to take it away. Over there, it's pale pink, which I rather like. The common one is the darker pink, which I've got a lot of in the garden, and I'm going to pull those out because otherwise this would be nearly all campion next year, or campion plus the moon daisies, which are here. These again will just seed and seed and seed and spread. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to pull them out. I did actually pull out a whole builder's bag of forget-me-nots from here a couple of weekends ago because they were just spreading like mad, and that gave room for other things to grow. But so my other ones I like very much are the rose. Now I don't know what rose that is, but this is a rose meadow, but there's precious little rose in evidence because I did most of the roses from cutting. So that one is mutabilis, and you can see it's probably a good metre tall now, and it's flowering very well. And that cutting was taken, was it last, no, the year before last. So that's a cutting at about a year and a half old, something like that. And as they get bigger, I'll clear the plants around for them so they've got more space to breathe. But the one up the tree I also did from a cutting, and I got that from John Cushner's garden. He was a great Northern Irish presenter, and he worked with me on Gardener's Question Time. And I took it back on the plane, stayed in a hotel for a few nights, went on a plane trip. But it's beautiful, and he used to call it the calendar rose. He didn't really know its name, but it just flowers on and on and on and on. And I think it's a Rosa chinensis of sorts, because the China roses tend to do that. They're very free flowering over a long time. So the roses will come up, and then all the riffraff below I'll remove a bit, so the roses have greater dominance. It's a dynamic process, but there is a lot here that I love. I love these pink foxgloves, which are really beautiful, and I've got the lutea, the perennial foxglove as well, which will come into being shortly. I've got these lovely Lilium martagon that are just about to come up too. I've got this beautiful Hesperus, which I love, with a white flower there, and it comes in white and a pink form. That's a biennial as well, and it doesn't seem to get too invasive here. But the whole thing about this rose meadow is it's an ongoing process, and eventually I'll have mainly roses, I'll have grasses. I like these grasses. I've got quite a few evergreen grasses. I've got Luzula, I've got the sort of yellow form, golden form of the Luzula, which gives me lots of evergreen content. And I've got that other Briza maxima, which is an evergreen grass which I grew from seed, which I think is lovely. So in the winter, I've got the evergreen grasses, I've got the big topiary, which you can see here and there, the big balls in the baseless containers to pull them up. And I've got the quince tree. So I've got a fair bit in the winter. It looked far better in the winter than I ever thought it would. I thought it would just look like a load of old silage, but it didn't. It actually had a lot of form and a lot of foliage, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm now going to show you a really contrasting space where I've got very formalized, simple planting in contrast to this crazy planting here. Now this is a totally different type of planting to what we've just looked at. This is very restricted. All I've got are lavenders, that's Lavender hidcut, Angustifolium hidcut, planted in rows, and then alliums. Now there is the odd poppy, but that was because we had an annual flower mix here last year, and that's a few overhangs that I haven't weeded out. But I've kept it really, really restrained. And what I intend to do is just, once these are flowered, I will clip them back and I will slowly form nice big lavender balls. So I'll have lavender balls and alliums. I've forgotten about this, I have put in yews, just one yew in each of the 4 beds, and I'll form large topiary yew balls. But this sort of planting, I think, has its merits because it's so simple. It's in this agricultural yard. It's quite structural. It's got the lift of the colour with the alliums, and then it has the lovely lavender colour. And then the box, of course, and big evergreen oaks and the yew keep it green, the structure going all the year round. And this sort of planting is really easy to manage. All you have to do is weed a bit where there's bare earth in between the plants. It takes very little maintenance, very little management, and I think it really sings for its supper. And I always remember when I interviewed David Hicks, the late David Hicks, a few years ago. He was a great garden designer, and he hated flowers where you could see them from the house, because he said flowers always go over, they're never always at the best, so he would just have structural planting. Now that for me is too rigid. I don't mind seeing flowers going over and set seed and things like that, but I think this is a happy balance between pretty strong structure, pretty good colour, with sudden bursts from the alliums. Aren't they wonderful?